Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. These are the latest news from Iraq Satellite Television in Baghdad. Let's start with the headlines. Our leader, Mr. President Saddam Hussein, meets a number of officials. Two Palestinian martyrs killed in the area of Rafah, and the forces of Israeli occupation leads a series of campaigns in the West Bank. A day before the International Day Against Aggression, China joins France, Germany and Russia facing the US threat. During his meeting with Mr. Tariq Aziz, the Pope insists on the choice of peace. The Iraqis continue their celebration of the Holy Adha. Ladies and gentlemen, these are the news. In the name of God, the merciful, the powerful. Our assistant leader, President of the Republic, Saddam Hussein, may God preserve him, held today a meeting with Izzat Ibrahim, Vice President of the Revolution Council, Tayassin Ramadan, Vice President and member of the Revolution Council, and the resistant Ali Hassan al-Majid, member of the Revolution Council and member of the Iraqi section of the Ba'ath Socialist Party. During this meeting, they discussed some important political matters and some questions related to the inspection teams. They also reiterated to all those interested in knowing among our people, our nation and humanity that Iraq does not possess what has been called weapons of mass destruction, nuclear, biological and chemical. Then they expressed their satisfaction because this pretext cannot be used anymore by the aggressors in front of the Security Council to lead their aggressions. But if, despite of that, they go ahead with their attack, God and the world will know that they are guilty, and the Iraqis, people and military forces will fight them with a spirit of faith and brave resistance that will please our friends and displease our enemies. And in that fight, we'll rely on God and stand united in order to drive the mean away, and God is the greatest. A presidential decree has been issued prohibiting the individuals and corporates in the private and mixed sectors from importing and producing chemical, biological and nuclear weapons as materials and weapons. And here is the text of the decree. In the name of God, the powerful, the merciful, Presidential Decree number 31, based on the paragraph B of the Article 58 of the Constitution, we issued the following decree. The individuals and corporates of both the private and mixed sectors are prohibited from importing, producing and developing chemical, biological and nuclear weapons as materials and weapons. The relevant ministries should, according to their competence, execute this decree and take the necessary measures in order to sanction those who violate it. Issued in Baghdad on the 13th of Dhul Hijjah month, 1423 AH, equivalent to the 14th of February 2003 AD. Saddam Hussein, President of the Republic. China has renewed its refusal of the US threats against Iraq. The Chinese Minister of Foreign Affairs, upon his arrival to the UN headquarters in New York to take part in the Security Council meeting, that the last two visits of the UN inspectors, Blix and Baradi, to Iraq brought positive results. He noted that China is ready to provide all the help needed for the success of the work of the inspection teams. The Russian Minister of Foreign Affairs, Igor Ivanov, insisted on the necessity of giving the international inspectors more time. Meanwhile, the preparations are ongoing around the world for the International Day Against Aggression. Different demonstrations will take place in different capitals of the world against the US policy of aggression against Iraq. While the US continue to threaten Iraq and Washington insists on carrying on its terrorist project, the opponents continue their intense diplomatic and political efforts in order to face this threat and stop the military action planned by the United States. After the NATO joint, France and Germany and Belgium, the German Chancellor Schröder has declared before the parliament that his country is not going to take part in any aggression against Iraq. Meanwhile, the Russian President Putin declared that his country is ready to use the veto against any decision taken by the Security Council that will allow the use of force against Iraq. Upon his arrival to New York to attend the Security Council meeting, the Russian Minister of Foreign Affairs insisted on the fact that there is no need to issue a new resolution on the situation in Iraq, since we already have the resolution 1441. After the Chinese position that supports the German, French and Belgian position, the US administration has found herself in a difficult situation since it's facing the opposition of 3 of the 5 permanent members of the Security Council. In the context of the popular opposition to the war in Iraq, a number of German cities have seen many demonstrations on Thursday, while hundreds of thousands of protesters are expected to arrive to Berlin from different parts of Germany to take part in the International Day Against Aggression. Dozens of other demonstrations are taking place around the world in front of the US and British embassies. Hundreds of thousands of Americans are expected also to join the international community in protesting against war by lighting candles and repeating songs that call for peace and oppose aggression under the slogan, "The world says no to war, overthrow Bush instead of throwing bombs." Tariq Aziz, Vice Prime Minister, has held a meeting in the Vatican with the Pope John Paul II, who has reiterated his refusal and opposition to the aggression against Iraq, insisting that the choice of peace is still prevailing. Mr. Aziz is supposed to meet the Secretary of the Vatican State and its Minister of Foreign Affairs. He is also scheduled to meet later the Italian Minister of Foreign Affairs before holding a press conference in Rome. Mr. Aziz has also met the governor of Lombardia County in Italy, who highlighted the necessity of finding a peaceful solution to the crisis without resorting to war. He said that more time should be given to the inspectors now that Iraq has facilitated their mission. He also met the leaders of different parliamentary groups in the Parliament of Italy and discussed with them the international situation in the light of the US threats. They all convened on the necessity of arousing the awareness of the international public opinion and the necessity to stop the aggression. They also underlined the need to give the inspectors enough time to carry on their mission. Mr. Aziz also met some Green and Communist Party representatives who highlighted the necessity of supporting the movements against war in Europe and taking a united position that calls for peace and stability to face the American aspirations to install their hegemony over the globe. The National Assembly held a special meeting in order to face the misleading campaigns in the US media aiming to justify the war against Iraq. Upon this meeting, the members of the Assembly issued a declaration in which they paid tribute to the nations and people that have expressed their refusal of the US policies against Iraq. During a special meeting held today by the Iraqi National Assembly to face the misleading campaigns in the US media in order to justify the attacks against Iraq, the members of the Assembly declared that even if they are refusing war, they will nevertheless fight any aggressor who will attack the independence of Iraq, the dignity of its people, and the integrity of its territories. Dr. Sadoun Hamadi, President of the National Assembly, declared that the misleading media campaigns against Iraq are a series of lies and defamations. These campaigns by the US media aim to serve the interests of the US administration. A number of members of the National Assembly insisted on the necessity of facing the wicked campaigns led by the United States and its administration through its media to justify their criminal war against Iraq. Then, a declaration was issued by the National Assembly that showed how the threats of attacks against Iraq are growing in the midst of an international opposition to that among the governments and their people. All the fair-minded people gathered here and the fair-minded people in the world are ready to face the aggressor coming from overseas, the unwise aggressor that is coming to attack the people that love peace and security. Reporting the special meeting of the National Assembly, Jafar Ali from the Iraq Satellite Television.